Welcome to the March 15 Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the list of attendees just so we have some idea of who's regularly joining. All right, and we've got the agenda pulled up before us, so if there is something that you'd like to add to that agenda, please chime in now. You can either add it in right here off the top, or you can tag it in at the end in the any other business section. We'll just pause if somebody wants to jump in. On that basis, we don't have a lightning talk scheduled for today. I just want to check with Babneet and Eric if the blog is going along well, that we can have a discussion around it on the 22nd. That's still on track?
Yeah, so the blog is completed and reviewed.
But Dan, the changes are still to be merged. So can we present the blog even though the changes haven't been merged?
I think we can do that, yeah. I think it's worth having that discussion and getting people aware of what's gone on there.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just checking, do we have Marius on the call? I don't see him yet, so still have to confirm with him the date for the JIT AOT server-side caching. Is Lan on the call? Don't see her yet either. So there's the two talks she was looking to organize, so I'll have to follow up on those. And Babneet, it looks like you and Nazim are scheduled in for the 29th. That's still working?
Yes, that is correct, Dan.
Thanks for that. All right, then let's move down and take a look at the recent user-raised issues. Looks like a JIT issues come in the last 11 hours. Pete, it looked like you had taken a look at that and confirmed that it doesn't happen ex-int.
Yeah, I stuck it in the 032 milestone plan. I think it should be evaluated by the JIT, and then we can decide what's the best milestone plan to put it in.
Right, and then the rest of these are quite a bit older. Is there anything in this list that needs discussion today or needs some attention to move it forward? Close this and we'll jump back to the agenda. And that brings us to the release roadmaps. So for 031, our Java 18 release, Pete, why don't I hand it over to you because you're closer to where we're at with this.
Want to bring up the milestone plan? I don't think there's a whole lot different from last week, except that we had a blocker and it was resolved. We're still waiting to fix some copyrights to get the fix into the 031 release. That should happen within the next couple of hours. But then there's the Java, the security 4 failure that I think we should get fixed. There has been a PR in progress for quite some time, but it's not quite right. And I'm wondering if the recent fix to not skip all the hidden frames would have an effect on the security 4 fix. It does still fail, so we still do need to fix it, but I'm wondering if some of the confusion around fixing it was due to some of the frames being removed. So I've asked Mike to take a look at that.
Then there's the...
So for the vector one, there is a fix, but I was just asking Geeta, there's another issue opened on the head stream and another crash. It doesn't look like this one. But I just want to make sure it's not a side effect of the fix that went into OMR before we merge the fix into this release.
So it sounds like we're getting close now. It's the
Yes, we are getting close. And also we will have to do an OpenSSL update. Apparently there's an OpenSSL update coming soon. But that shouldn't be a problem.
all right. So then, if we look at that, what does that do to our schedule dates? We've missed clearly the GA start date on March 14th, but
Yeah, that was a bit early. I think we could still do it later this week and get it out on time, but um, I think we have to accept we might be late at this point. We'll just have to play it by ear and see when we can get the last problem resolved.
okay. So it sounds like we're now down to the blocker's been resolved. We're down to some questions around the vector API and some
Yeah,
additional investigation into the one remaining security-related test failure.
right.
Sounds like we're in a reasonable shape for this.
The security one, though I never marked it as a blocker, I think it's something that we should get fixed. So it's a problem, and I don't think it's related to enabling security manager. So yeah, that plus the OpenSSL, the vector incubator is kind of optional. If we can get it in because we have time, then great. Otherwise, it'll go into the next release.
How long of a delay does the OpenSSL piece require?
Shouldn't be any significant delay at all anymore. We used to have to rebuild manually and update the Windows machines, but we no longer have to do that. So it's all automated. We just have to change the version number and rebuild. So as long as we don't have any problems rebuilding, it just takes test time.
And I assume Mac is in a similar position for that.
Yes, Mac's always been built automatically. It was only Windows where it was a manual build.
Anything else we need to touch on for the 031 release?
Nothing for me.
That brings us to the 032 release. Pull up the release plan there as well. Pete, do you want to walk us through this one as well?
So last we heard about the first test issue, there hadn't been any progress. I haven't seen any updates that I recall. I don't know if Daryl has more info on that one.
No updates on that one.
The PR, it's just been sitting there for quite some time. It's not going to block anything. It's in an incubator feature. I'll try and get after Gita to find out what's going on with that. The UTF-8 properties, it's been identified as a JIT issue. Toby just made an update yesterday, I think. So we need some investigation into why that crashes. Oh, it wasn't yesterday, but I guess because I was on vacation, it seemed like yesterday.
Daryl, can you get somebody to take a look at that?
Yeah, we can do that.
The compilation thread assert, it seemed hot for a while, but I haven't seen it recently. And I think some changes went in or are going in to add more diagnostics. So if the assert happens again, we'll get more information. I'm not sure if those changes were merged yet or not.
Jack?
It was Marius and somebody else. It looks like
Yeah.
it's merged. So if we see that again, we should have more info. But like I said, it was hot for a while, but then it kind of stopped. And then the last one is the user-raised issue that we briefly touched on earlier. It fails with JIT, not with Accent. not great at diagnosing JIT issues. I tried with op level cold and it didn't fail in the JIT, so it does fail with op level warm. I think we need to evaluate the severity of this and figure out when it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so it looks like we've got a number of JIT issues, including this first one that we've had marked as a blocker but have not been treating as a blocker. And coming up on about a week away from our intended M2 date. Do you think with the state that we're in that we should proceed with that M2?
I'd be tempted to delay it until we have all the issues resolved. Or we could do an M2 and then intend to do an M3 or a release candidate build afterwards. But
Given we'll be running the Java 18 release at the same time, do we want to plan to even just push this out by a week, see where we're at in terms of completed issues?
yeah, I mean, there's other issues as well. I mean, even for M1, we built JDK 11, but we haven't built any other versions. I think there's some infra issues that Adam wanted to look at, problems with doing some of the builds. So until those are resolved, I'm not sure we'll be doing any milestones for anything.
Adam, is there an
Yeah,
ETA
they
on?
weren't necessarily blockers for the milestone. They will be blockers for the release. I was going to try and solve them before the milestone, but I haven't had a chance yet. So if we still want to do milestone 1, I can do 8 and 17 today.
Yeah, I think it would be good to do those builds and triage them.
Okay.
I'll double check what's gone in since we tagged for M1, but I don't think it's a whole lot.
Okay. I'll wait for your confirmation then.
Yeah, if I see anything that looks significant, maybe I'll just retag an M1A so we pick up the latest changes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, actually, yeah, the blocker for 031 just went in, so I'll definitely retag for M1A.
Okay.
Are we still, given this release plan that we're looking at, are we still on track for our release date of April 21 for 032?
Hard to say at this point. We need to evaluate the issues in the milestone and figure out if they need to be fixed in order to ship. I mean, we know we have the one that's marked blocker, but we've deferred that one before. So I think we could defer it again, although we'd prefer not to. It still does fail fairly regularly. But the others, we need a closer look and figure out how severe we think they are and whether we can ship with them or not.
Okay. It would be good if we can get that resolved sort of as soon as possible so we're ready. Any last minute updates to the JDK and can get that release out at same time frame. So Daryl, if right now the items in this plan are all marked JIT, so if you can take the lead on making sure that that gets burned down.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. We're a little bit short-staffed this week, but try to get through it as soon as we can.
Okay. Anything else on the 032 release?
Nothing from me.
Then Toby, I'm assuming you did the update here, saying that the CRIU beta will be done with the IBM internal releases instead of tagging in the open.
Yeah.
Seems like the right outcome here. Work on releasing those features officially through our releases when they're more ready. All right. Do we have Shelly on the call? I don't see her, and I also don't see Lan. So do we have anyone who can give an update on Adopt? We'll skip over that. Adam, is there an update on the infrastructure?
Yeah, we're down some Windows machines. We had a ticket open going back and forth with them, and they've run out of options. So it sounds like we're going to have to rebuild 4 of them, including plus 1 for Omar. So hopefully we can reclone over top of them from a good machine, but I've never done that before, so ETA unknown at this point. But we have 6. Sorry. Out of the 11, 4 are down. And for Omar, 1 out of 2 are down. I don't know if Pete's noticed if there's a backup on Windows or not. But
Actually, I turned off our nightly testing on JDK 8, I think it was, so that we could get through the rest of the testing in a reasonable amount of time, like before we have to start the next nightly testing. I think there is quite a big backlog on Windows, but I don't necessarily follow it that closely.
okay.
We seem to get through everything eventually, but I don't know how much luck people are having running PR testing.
Yeah, there was one complaint a week or 2 ago about it.
And it's probably delaying like OMR builds and other acceptance builds.
Right.
But they all go through eventually.
Yep.
A bigger problem right now is the core file problem on Z-Linux. There's 2 machines where we have that core pattern setting
Right.
app port. And so basically all the builds fail, so none of our acceptance is promoting automatically. I have to keep an eye on it and promote it all manually.
Okay. I'll see if I can get that action.
Do you know why does that keep happening? It seems like we fix that and then it pops up again a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, I'll have to. It's supposed to not do that, so I'll have to take a look and see if it's same machines again or.
It's happening on some internal machines as well, some
Yes.
VM farm machines, but I've been ignoring it, just restarting them.
There's been several issues tracking it.
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
Brings us to the CMake migration. Devin, any update there?
I have the cross-compile changes merged in, and I have a build running on the internal Jenkins that mostly works. It gets through the compile stuff, but it hits other issues that are unrelated to my work. It looks like, and then so then I'm following up with Konosan to make sure that my changes there work for him. And then I'm looking at enabling the CMake by default when you cross-compile.
This is not on the call, so I guess we'll skip over the JIT server update. The next Microjet meeting is scheduled for the 24th. Toby, is there an update on Snapshot Restore?
Yeah. Currently the work is focused on just updating the capabilities to modify environment variables on Restore. As well, there's some work on delaying notification operations in single thread mode and the related one on throwing exceptions on blocking operations when in single thread mode. We're also working with the test team on enabling basic tests. So Lance team has something working with the get command utility. They're looking at enabling Docker tests as well, which is currently in progress. One of the next things we'll need to look at are EJB timers on the Liberty side. It has the problem of firing missed events between the checkpoint and restore time. And when you restore, it eats up a bunch of CPU because it fires all the events repeatedly. I'm not too familiar with the implementation, if it's something that's built on Java util timers or if it's completely in-house. So that's what we'll have to look at as well. And yeah, that's it for that work.
Toby? Jack, do you have an update on Loom?
Yes, Dan. So currently we're experiencing a significant merge conflicts once we started trying to port over the OpenJDK's Loom branch Javelin thread over to the standard branch. They have done quite a significant work to make the thread group lightweight and to place a lot of the thread-related variables into a new subclass, which would require a lot of native level changes for when we're linking the content. And there's also a lot of APIs that are new, which we need to support. And there's a few old ones that we have been relying on to solve the differences in implementation between OpenJ9 and OpenJDK, which are no longer existing. So we will need to find a new way to bypass those.
Thanks for that, Jack. Cheng, is there an update on Panama?
In terms of Echo, Linux pips for LE, I think they already merged the latest version of libvifi PPC into the OpenJ9 code and to fix up the crash issues on the flow structure. I'm gonna keep working on other non-flow structure issues in there, so still on it. That's about it.
Thanks, Cheng. Daryl, is there an update on the Mac M1 work?
No, not really. We'll be going out with early access in JDK 18.
That is non-compressed refs only still?
Yes, we're going to start working on that, on some solution for that in March. Well, this month, I guess.
Did we decide on the solution we were going with?
We haven't, but given our previous discussion, I'm just going to sort through that information again and then come up with a proposal. I did get some input from VJ on what he would like to see from that regard with respect to performance. So anyway, I'll have something out in probably a couple of weeks' time that we can talk to again.
Thanks, Daryl. The last item here, Keith, the shared library rename.
Right. So it was started more than a couple of years ago to rename the libraries. There was an issue where people were finding the wrong one and things weren't working properly. The proposed solution then was to rename it, and then it's kind of come back to light given the other issue that's mentioned in the meeting notes there. And so originally I had planned to rename the library on all platforms for both UMA and CMake builds. At this point, I think I would propose to leave the UMA builds out of the mix, and everything is working, but there are some special cases that I haven't sorted out on AIX or ZOS, and so I'm I guess I'm looking for some feedback on whether people think we should go ahead with that, perhaps without AIX and ZOS to start, and then fold those platforms in as the work progresses, or whether should we wait and do them all at once, and what people think about leaving the UMA builds out of the mix.
For the UMA builds, I'm not sure we have any UMA builds left in the open, do we? I thought everything part of the, maybe apart from the cross compiles, had been migrated to CMake.
Yes, I think that's true.
Yeah, that should be right.
So in that case, from my perspective, I'm happy to drop UMA, but you might want to check with the other IBM stakeholders on how they feel about that.
Except for RISC-V is still using UMA?
Yeah, because that would be a cross-compile build, I believe.
Okay.
I didn't think we should go out piecemeal. I figure we should either get AIX and ZOS working, or maybe consider only going out for Mac, since Mac is the only platform that needs this at the moment.
Yeah, it's more important on Mac, I suppose. I forget which platform where the original motivation for this happened, whether that was Linux or what, I'm not sure, but so it wouldn't fix that if it was a non-Mac platform.
I'm not sure what other people think, but my preference is either just Mac or all at the same time.
Okay. Maybe I'll chat with you later, Peter, about trying to dig out some historical information about why some of the special stuff on AIX and ZOS happens.
Yeah, we're also would be targeting the July release for this, so there is some time.
Yeah. So I'm coming to the conclusion that on AIX, perhaps, that the special cases are because the shared libraries had the same name, and when they have different names, a lot of that stuff can go away, I think. So,
that makes sense, yeah.
AIX had the concept of the master redirector as well, or the...
Yeah, and I'm saying it's not clear to me that we need to retain that distinction.
If we rename the libraries.
Right. So I don't think it matters, where which redirector got loaded, as long as it's got the right code in it. We don't care whether it came from an archive, a .so, or something else. The goal is to find the main VM and the symbols in it and connect them.
Yeah, I think the different name may help. I know there was some kind of loop issue previously with not using the main redirector, but I couldn't come up with the details. The only other question I have around this is, with the renames, we have historically avoided doing that in case somebody was linking against the wrong version, the wrong JVM.dll.
When you say linking, you mean runtime linking or compile time linking?
Yes. We didn't know what people were doing with their own versions of launchers.
So, all right, so that's not a compile time linking. You're talking about the runtime. So, I mean, I think Pete brought it up. If we change the name of the one that's in the default directory, for example, you obviously can't link against a non-existent file. But we could create additional copies of the redirector in, let's say, in the default directory, that know how to find the main one. So that use case would continue to work at the expense of, a little higher footprint.
Because we don't know who's done this, or if anyone has done this, part of me wonders if we should take the chance, break those use cases, see who complains. If somebody, you have a solution here in your back pocket that we can pull out if we need to.
Yeah, it would be a simple matter to create extra copies of the redirector if we need it.
It might be a little more complicated. It might, would it work? Would it just work if we put a copy in the VM directory, or would there be code changes required? I suppose we could try it.
I don't think code changes would be required, but I haven't tested it yet.
I'm on board with what Dan suggested. Don't put the redirector there and see what problems people have and try the workaround in advance, and we could always tell people to just copy the file if they have an issue.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Pete as well that we're only going out on one platform. If we're going out on a subset of platforms, we should just do it to the affected platform. So I would do it just to the Mac platform.
Well, my preference would be do all of them rather than a subset. But I can work with the Mac only subset if it turns out that's the required answer.
Yeah, it seems like looking at a July timeframe, we should be able to get all the platforms working.
Yeah.
Seems like a reasonable outcome there. Keith, was there other questions or other things you needed sorted out with that?
No, this is just, I want to make people aware of what's going on and give them a chance to offer opinions on how we should handle this.
Then we're at the end of our agenda. Is there anything else that anybody needs to bring up today? Doesn't sound like it, so thank you everybody, and we'll meet again next week.
Okay, bye everybody.